talking with Jason Belcher, who is a contributor for this year's Mahler Remixed Concert. So how about you tell us what you have in mind for this concert?
Basically, my piece is, first of all, it's for a duo of myself and Tara Mueller, who plays violin. I'm playing chord organ, which is this fantastic instrument you see here. And we are kind of experimenting with various themes from the Symphony No. 1.
What is the history of the two of you as a duo working together?
We started playing together at the end of last semester. Tanya Kalmanovich, the assistant chair of the CI department, organized duo nights where a bunch of us would get together, anybody. It was open to anybody who wanted to come. So that's the first time that we ever played together as a duo, and I felt like it really worked, and we decided to do more things this year. We don't talk a lot. We'll get together for, 2, 3, 4 hours maybe, and just play. And we might stop and, jot down something like, hey, remember that we just did.
How did you first become introduced to Mahler's First Symphony?
As a French horn player, I learned, the excerpts, which are standards. You hear them played for auditions for anything. So that's how I really got to know the piece. And there are just things that strike me about it that you really don't hear Mahler do all the time. Some things are definite Mahlerisms that you will hear over and over and over again. But the things that are unique about this piece are really, they stand out.
Can you give an example of something that is unique to this piece?
For me, the thing that I think of the most is the very beginning. You have this sustained texture, and you can see it, and the strings, it's a continuous drone for, 3 pages of the score, and it's just really incredible that he would do that at that time, and it's not something that you hear him do over and over again.
And along with drones, Mahler also uses a lot of ostinatos. Is that something else that you look at? It's a different form of a drone, and it's a repeated figure.
Absolutely. Now, the way our score is going to work, we haven't created a score yet, but it's basically going to consist of fragments, which are, very kind of Mahler-esque. The first one that I kind of talked about before was this drone that happens. This, it's soft and it's really long. But just to have this sustained texture, maybe something else will happen, and maybe it'll just be the two of us turning that on and off in our own time. So it could be very abstract, it could not be. Another one is this kind of thing that you hear over and over again in Mahler, but this kind of... so that as an idea, or parts of the melody. Here's a piece that consists of a series of fragments. You don't have to play all of them. You can play some of them more than once, but move in a way from thing to thing so that there's, some kind of development. And there's also a certain amount of attention paid to space, which, listening to a symphony of Mahler, is very thick, and then there are moments where there's just like, there's something that opens up. You know, that's one of the unique things about the opening of this symphony, is that there's just like this whole big space that's waiting to be filled. And I guess that's kind of how we're going to develop the piece, and how the score itself might look. There might be a lot of space. I actually think there will.
What are you looking for in the themes, and what are you hoping to do with them?
A certain kind of, I guess there's a playfulness that I want to capture, particularly with the themes from the first movement. One of them, you know, being this kind of very strongly diatonic thing that we could do a number of different takes on. You know, we could play it as a canon. We could, you know, play it over one of the ostinatos, over drone, on, you know, the high A natural. There's all this potential that can be, you know, all this potential for material to be generated out of, you know, a very little snapshot of something that Mahler has given us. We're basically going to be using the form as a piece, as the form of that piece as a model, the first movement, except we're going to do it in the span of 6 minutes as opposed to 16.
Just as you are using Mahler as a source material, Mahler's first symphony uses some folk elements, such as the third movement, which has his take on the Frere Jacques tune, and kind of like that riff off a riff. I just want to talk about that.
The third movement to me is something that's really interesting because, you know, I mentioned earlier, I feel like I keep repeating myself, but there's this, you know, this figure, this kind of thing that happens over and over again in Mahler, you know, this and then, you know, you have this melody which you know, and I really like that trigger of recognition, and that's one of the things that I hope that people will get from our performance. You know, the way I see it, if Mahler can use, you know, Frere Jacques or any kind of folk melody that he might come across, why can't we use material from his first symphony? And I'm unsure at this point whether it'll be something that's utterly recognizable or something that's going to be really masked. And either way, I'm pretty sure that it'll be interesting. An audience member who knows this music is going to be waiting. And I'm not sure if we're going to kind of be dangling the theme over their heads and making them reach for it, or if we're just going to embed it somehow in our material, you know, and it may or may not be perceived.
So the purpose of this concert is Mahler Remixed, taking Mahler through several different lenses. How do you feel what you're doing relates to other pieces on this program, and what lens are you taking to this?
It's really interesting to have something where the whole school is involved, because a lot of people, first of all, I don't think there's a department that's not represented, and I think that's a really wonderful thing. And with that comes people stepping outside of their comfort zone in a way that I really, really like. We have people doing things with dance music who aren't here studying dance music. It's part of what they do, and they're bringing it to the table. We have improvisers, we have people who are arranging music, conducting performance majors, all of this stuff. And it's really interesting to see kind of a school-wide take on what is this music, how do we reinvent it, how do we look at it today, and how do we reinvent it for tomorrow, how do we keep it alive in a certain type